Hello, I'm Ric Edelman, and this is The Truth About Money. On today's show,
get a little off track, like most people, I think.
What do you do with the liquid money that you're keeping on hand in this current situation where you get essentially zero interest?
We were thinking of gold. What do you think?
When I retired, I held 51 major league records. Well, people say, oh, wow, he held 51. Well, they weren't all good records.
That's all coming up right here, right now, on The Truth About Money. Financial success doesn't just happen, it takes planning. Do you set goals for your future? And do you stick with them? We were curious as to what people would say, so we asked folks out on the street, and here's what they told us.
Meet it. Meet it. Meet it.
Meet it.
Meet it.
I'm gonna say sometimes.
I get off track, but my husband helps me stay on track.
I can get off track, but usually it's for a good reason, a broken car or something that, definitely things that come up that were unexpected, but very real and needed expenses.
But things always pop up. Insurance and just things pop up, during the course of the month. My son has to go to the doctor, urgent care or something, it just eats into it. So, yeah, it's very difficult money-wise.
Get a little off track, like most people, I think. I mean it. Occasionally I get off track, but my wife is real good at keeping me back on it because she's a little more focused than I am with keeping goals, I guess.
I think I do have a tendency to get off track, but I'm getting married soon, so I've got an obligation to stay on track as good as I can.
Most people fail to reach their goals, not because the goals are impossible, but because most people set about their goals the wrong way. Let me show you the 4 steps to help you really achieve your financial goals. The first step is setting a positive goal. I will save to buy a house. That's a positive goal. It focuses your attention on what you want to accomplish. Avoid negative goals like, I will not spend money. Negative goals make you think of what you shouldn't be doing. It's like if you were going on a diet. Setting a goal of not eating cupcakes, well, that'll just make you think about cupcakes. Delicious, sweet cupcakes. And pretty soon, you'll be eating a cupcake. So focus on positive goals. Think about what you want to do instead of what you don't want to do. Second, set a date for achieving your goal. A lot of New Yorkers say that they want to visit the Statue of Liberty, but they never go. You know why? They've never set a date. Setting a date for achieving your goal is what makes your goal realistic. Third, write down your goal. Until you see your goal in print, it's not real. Write it down. Tape it onto your bathroom mirror. Tape it to your refrigerator door. Tape it onto your computer monitor and even your steering wheel. Tape it everywhere so that your goal becomes part of you. And finally, stay focused. Stay excited about your goal. If your goal is to buy a house, tour model homes. Read home magazines. Design your own floor plan. When I was younger, I always wanted to drive a Jaguar. So I bought a little Matchbox car and I carried it in my pocket all the time. I'd play with it on my desk at work too. I immersed myself in my goal. And when you do that, it becomes easy to stop spending money. Instead of not spending, you think instead about getting ready to buy something really special. Set your goal, set a deadline, write it down, and stay focused. These 4 simple steps will help you reach your financial goal. You know, there are millions of Americans aimlessly wandering the streets of America with personal finance questions bobbing in their heads. Here's one.
My question for you is, what do you do with the liquid money that you're keeping on hand in this current situation where you get essentially zero interest?
It's hard to overstate the importance of cash reserves. We routinely encourage our clients to have anywhere from 6 months to 24 months worth of spending in cash reserves. The question becomes, where do you put the money? As she so accurately stated, the interest rate you earn on cash reserves is these days virtually zero. Bank accounts, checking and saving, money market accounts, treasury bills, all of the kinds of places where you ought to be putting your reserves are paying virtually no interest. Tough. put the money there anyway. Remember, the primary purpose of reserves is liquidity. You want to know that that money is available to you whenever you need it, no matter when. And the price you pay for liquidity is in the form of low interest. So if you're upset that you're earning low interest, be careful, because that could tempt you to chase a higher return. And if you chase a higher return, you're going to be taking higher risks. The money that you have in cash reserves is there as an emergency. Don't worry about the rate of return. Worry instead that the money is there when you need it. There's no doubt about it, I have a face for radio. Here's proof from my weekly live show.
I lost my house in the northern part of the city here. I had to walk away from it because my business went down, so we've moved into my wife's house, which is wonderful. The only problem is that because what happened to me up north, they did not want to do a reverse mortgage on this house. So we're fighting that. The question is that I have is that we are going to get the money, and we were thinking of gold. What do you think?
I think that's extraordinarily dangerous. If I can understand the situation correctly here, Chuck, you are in difficult financial straits. You are about to pull equity out of the primary residence, and you want to take that money and speculate with it by buying a highly risky, unpredictable asset. Guys, does this sound like what he's describing?
Well,
Sounds like it.
It does. And I think sometimes there's a misunderstanding of gold. Sometimes people think that gold is safe and will always do well. But if you look at how it's done, it's actually incredibly volatile. It's as volatile as technology stocks. And that surprises people sometimes, that the price swings up and down with gold move that rapidly.
And you would think in the middle of a crisis, that would be the time
That would be the time it's going up.
We have to go back to 1980 when gold hit its all-time high of $850 an ounce. It then fell in value for the next 20 years and took another 7 for it to get back to its 1980 price. It took 27 years for investors to get their money back. So no, Chuck, it's an extraordinarily dangerous thing to do. I would want to have you sit down with a financial advisor who can look at your situation in greater totality. Why are you getting the reverse mortgage in the first place? Do you need the money? And if you do need the money to help support yourselves in income, how can we generate an income off of that money when invested? Gold is not going to be your answer. I think that's sheer speculation, and I would strongly encourage you to meet with an independent financial advisor who can help you deal with the situation more directly. Okay, class, it's time for a snap quiz. Let's see if you can get the right answer.
The most common reason people fail financially is they don't make enough money. They have to pay too much in taxes. They procrastinate. Costs keep rising, forcing them to spend more. Stay tuned for the answer.
The questions that people ask me at our live seminars are probably the same questions you have on your mind. Take a look.
Hello, Rick. My name is Rita. I have a question about an elderly parent. My mother-in-law has a house. We don't have a proxy or attorney, power of attorney. We don't have anything. She's very adamant. This is my house. I don't want to hear about anything. Now she's sick. What should we do? How can we deal with this situation?
She lives alone.
She lives alone.
She owns her home herself.
Correct.
And is she no longer able to care for herself?
Correct. She has a lady two ladies that are taking care of her.
And who's paying for those ladies?
Herself.
And is she able to do that? She has other assets?
No, only Social Security at this moment. Some saving left.
Okay. This is a very common problem, and it's growing as the boomers realize that their aging parents are getting to a point where they are no longer able to live independently as they were. And it requires you to have a very delicate conversation with mom and dad. How many people in the room are providing care of some type to a parent? This is very, very common. The statistics are that over 10 million adult boomers are providing some form of care to their parents, and this number is going to grow as everybody continues to age. And you're experiencing exactly this situation. Your mother-in-law probably never thought she would live as long as she's living, and it never occurred to her that her health would be declining the way that it is, impacting her ability to remain independent. And there's a lot of fear in her own mind about what's going on with her lifestyle. You and your husband have a lot of concern for her. What you need to do is have a very delicate but a very straightforward conversation with her, not telling her what she wants to do, but asking her what her preferences would be and helping her work out a strategy that is realistic, allowing her slowly over time to reach the conclusions herself of her ability to continue to live independently the way that she is. You need to work very carefully and very diligently, and there are two ways that you can engage in this conversation. One way that you can do this is by sharing stories of friends of hers, because chances are she knows people who are going through this very same thing, people in the same street and in the same neighborhood, friends of hers, old friends from high school, other relatives who are experiencing something similar, and it enables you to say, hey Mom, what if? Look what's happened to so-and-so down the street. What if, Mom, that was you? What would you want to do about that? What would you want us to do for you about that? And it's a conversation starter. Go to the newspapers and look online. You see these stories all the time. Share those articles with her as a conversation starter. The second way to approach the subject is to blame me. Mom, I was having a conversation with my financial advisor, and he insisted that I talk to you about this and get the following information. And so you use the financial advisor as an excuse for jump-starting the conversation, even to the point of encouraging Mom to meet with that financial advisor, either with you present or not. And to make sure that you're doing it in the context, Mom, it's not because we want your house, it's not because we want your money, it's because we love you and we're concerned about you being able to maintain your independence and your dignity, and we want to help you do that for as long as possible. And by having this conversation slowly, gently, and most of all, respectfully, you can begin to get them to engage in this conversation in a productive manner. But it is very common for there to be reluctance and discomfort along the way. Don't allow that to stop you. Have the conversation because you know it's vital.
Okay, thank you.
The most common reason people fail financially is they procrastinate.
Nolan Ryan's pitches were regularly clocked above 100 miles an hour, and he threw 5,714 strikeouts, making him the #1 strikeout pitcher in baseball history. Nolan's the all-time leader in no-hitters, 7 of them, 3 more than any other pitcher. It gets better. The number on his jersey was retired by 3 different teams, the Angels, Astros, and Rangers. That only happened one other time, and that was to Jackie Robinson. His number was retired by all of Major League Baseball. Of course, Nolan is a legend in Texas, where a highway has been named for him, and a disproportionate number of boys are named either Nolan or Ryan. Nolan is also one of the very few professional players of any sport to become the owner of a major league team. For the past 3 years, he's presided over baseball operations for the Texas Rangers, and he led the group that eventually purchased the team. In his first year as owner, the Rangers made it all the way to the World Series, the first time the club has ever been the American League champion. I had the pleasure of talking with Nolan during spring training in Phoenix. Nolan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rick. Pleasure to be here.
The Texas Rangers were well known for being a pretty bad team, back in the day, and even early last year, at the beginning of the season, you had players fighting with each other. It's astonishing that yet at the end of the season, you ended up in the World Series. How did you turn the team around in such a short period of time?
Well, I'd like to take credit for it, but it was a team effort to accomplish what we did, and a lot of it was put in place before I came here in 2008. And the fact that I think as we grew and developed as an organization and with a philosophy that was put in place in 2007, I think we grew with young players, and I think once they realized that they had the talent to play on that level, and then they started believing in themselves, and the manager and coaching staff that we have, I think it's a lot of things that came together, but but we have some very talented players that played to a different level than they played before.
Well, in fact, let me elaborate on that with you, because you told the New York Times that you believe bad performance is a cycle of low expectations and insufficient confidence. In fact, the Times quoted you as saying, quote, "We had to get them in the right frame of mind and believing in themselves." And that suggests that you didn't think that you had a problem with talent, but a problem with attitude.
Well, I think that attitude is a big part of being successful. And if you don't believe you can do something, you won't do it. And if you believe in yourself and believe that you can compete on that level and compete with the people that you're competing against, then to me that's a big step in the right direction. And what you have to do is have that mindset, have it reinforced, and then they start having success, and they truly do believe then that they belong here, that they can compete here, and that they can be successful here. So mindset's a lot of it. And when I talk to our pitchers about pitching longer, you have to get them to believe they can do it, they want to do it, and then for them to truly believe in it, you have to physically get them where they can do it. And then if they want to do it and they know physically they can do it, then we'll start seeing them do it.
So this, I would assume, holds lessons for us well beyond the ballpark of everything else into life, that it's so much of success in life is your attitude and your positive mental attitude about your
I believe that. I believe if you don't have a positive mental attitude and enjoy what you're doing, you're not going to be successful at it. You're not going to be happy doing what you're doing. And so I believe what we do in baseball carries over in all aspects of your life, and whether it be a relationship with your family or your business relationship. And if you don't have a self-esteem and believe that you're capable of doing something and feel good about yourself, it's pretty hard to be successful.
It goes beyond mental, though. You were very well known with an attitude of physical preparation. You practice all the time. You demand that of your pitchers today. 45 minutes of batting practice every day in spring training. Exercising after the game, not just before it. Extra wind sprints, and even you're a big fan of something known as long tossing. Tossing a baseball the length of a football field.
Well, you know, once I figured out in my career that the ability that I had was a God-gifted ability. It wasn't anything I did. It was a gift. And then once I realized that, I said, then I should try to take advantage of this gift that I received and do everything within my power to be the best player I could be. And that's what I try to express with our players is their athletic ability was a gift. And this opportunity is, what do they want to make of this opportunity? Do they want to do everything they can to be as successful as they can, to give their families an opportunity to take advantage of the gift they were given and set their families up in a situation that normally they wouldn't be in? So these are the things I try to stress with our players and get them in that mindset. And if you can get them in that mindset, then they take it and go with it.
So the fundamentals of achieving success begin with mental discipline and preparation and physical discipline and preparation.
Correct.
But let's face it, Nolan, sometimes you're in a situation beyond your control. For example, in your effort to make the Texas Rangers profitable, look at what you're up against. You're in an open-air stadium in a town where it routinely gets over 100 degrees in the summertime. You are in the same town when you finally do get cool weather in September. Football season starts, and you're in the hometown of the Dallas Cowboys, where they have a huge lock on corporate sponsorships. So you're really up against it in your efforts to attract an audience, sports fans, to come patronize the Rangers when there's weather against you and the Cowboys. How do you overcome that?
You know, you look at the circumstances that you're dealt, and then you try to figure out how do you use those circumstances to your advantage, and then how do you make a lesson the negative parts of them. And I tell people, it's like when you go into Fenway and you're standing on the mound Fenway, I don't care who you are, you feel the presence of the green monster out there, but you can't let that affect the way you pitch. And so the way I look at our ballpark from a player's perspective is, let's use the heat in Texas during July and August to our advantage. The other teams that come in there are intimidated by it. this is our home. Let's use it to our advantage. We're in it. We're accustomed to it. And so my attitude was, when I pitched at home in the heat, my goal was to outlast that opposing pitcher. And if I could pitch longer than he did in the game, I put myself in position to win a lot of ball games. Now, what we do is we have to put a good product on the field. A winning product draws fans. And then we have to try.
Is it really that simple? If you simply get those winning games, the rest will follow?
People want to be associated with a winner. They want to pull for a winner. So that's the first ingredients, but it's not the only ingredients. And then you have to start trying to make the environment friendlier, make the environment to the point that the heat isn't an issue. And so we try to be creative in our marketing. We try to be accommodating with our fans. We offer water. We do the things that we feel like that if I was sitting in those stands watching the game, what I would appreciate from that organization. And I'm a believer. When I asked our fans to be at the Sunday game at 2 o'clock in the heat in August, because it's a televised game and by our contract we have to play it at 2 o'clock, Nolan Ryan's going to be sitting in the stands with the fans. If I ask them to do it, I'm going to do it. And our players understand that, and that we're not going to complain about the heat. That's just something we have to deal with.
So don't let obstacles interfere with your effort to achieve your goal.
If you're looking for excuses, we can find excuses why we didn't do something, you know. So when we have some circumstances that maybe aren't as favorable as we'd like them to be, I think we look at them, analyze them, and try to figure out how we can use them to our advantage and not magnify them to the point that they become overwhelming.
So now we've got three issues here that we've got. We've got mental preparation, we've got physical preparation, we have the determination to overcome obstacles and not let them prevent us from achieving our goal. But sometimes in your efforts to achieve success, you're going to have failures along the way. You're extraordinarily well known, of course, for all of the strikeouts that you achieved as a major league pitcher. 5,000, I got to look at the number because it's just so astonishing. 5,714 strikeouts in your career. By far more strikeouts than any other pitcher in baseball history. But there's another record that you hold that isn't as talked about as often. You walked more players, more batters than any other pitcher.
And I'll ask people, I said, you know, when I retired, I held 51 major league records. Well, people say, oh, wow, he held 51. Well, they weren't all good records. Would I like to have half of those walks? Yeah, I would have been even a more effective pitcher. But, you know, it's something I had to deal with in my career, and I learned to deal with it. And it was always a goal of mine to throw more strikes, walk less people. The less people you have on base, the less chances they have of scoring. And so, yeah, and so I stress to, I take what I've experienced in my career, and I stress to our young pitchers how important it is to throw strikes and get ahead and put people away and not give them a chance to get back into the count and all these things, because I've lived it and they know I've lived it, and I understand the negative effects it can have on you. And so I try to use that experience that I have to help our young pitchers put more emphasis on what it is that they have to do to throw strikes.
And just recognize that walking batters is just part of what it's all about as you achieve the success of striking batters out.
Well, you know, it's when you throw a lot of pitches, and I was the style of pitcher they fouled a lot of pitches off, and it was because of my God-given ability that they didn't center me a lot, and so they fouled off a lot of pitches, and I threw more pitches, and so the more pitches you throw, the more balls you're going to throw.
Mm-hmm. Nolan, thanks so much for joining us.
Rick, my pleasure. Good seeing you.
Thank you. Before we go, do you have a hot stock tip from an investment analyst? Think before you buy. Bloomberg looked at all the stock picks from hundreds of analysts in 2010, and guess what they found out? The stocks that the analysts liked best gained an average of less than 9%, while the stocks they liked least jumped 20% on average. So the next time you're tempted to buy somebody's hot pick, well, remember, hot picks can burn you. And that's it for this edition of The Truth About Money. I'm Ric Edelman. Thanks for watching. I guess we're done.